Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and if you hear an iPad with silly kid videos playing in the background, it's because my son is on his iPad listening to silly kid videos in the background. I just negotiated for him to turn the volume down a little bit, but he can be a real pain in the butt sometimes, so we'll see what happens. So I want to start with this. Ghana's government is working on a new policy regime where gold will be used to buy oil products rather than U.S. dollar reserves. This, if you remember, I showed this video about 6 months ago, and I want to show you this clip right here because it's always been about the petrodollar. Everything you're watching in Ukraine and with Russia and all this stuff, petrodollar. It's not about anything else. It's about the petrodollar.
Supply and demand. Why the petrodollar is important, it causes a demand for the US dollar. A lot of Americans don't realize that over 70% of all the $100 bills in the world are actually outside of the US. There's more $100 bills in Russia than there are in America.
This stockpile of US dollars in countries around the world is because oil is bought and sold using the greenback.
If oil starts trading in non-petrodollars, such as gold or a basket of currencies, or if China and Russia start trading in yuan and ruble rather than US dollars, that demand isn't there. And the way of life for the average American will be done.
Folks, there's a reason, very specific reason that I'm buying physical gold and gold in my Glint account, and there's a reason that I worked something out where Glint could be my sponsor. I thought what they were doing was cutting edge. It allows me to not only have physical gold, but to also have gold in my Glint account and have a MasterCard debit card where I can literally spend my gold if I'm in a scary hyperinflationary type situation. Moving along, so the link to that's in the top of the description of this video. Click the link and tell them DAI sent you. Now, XRP's been on the move for the last 24 hours or so. It's up to 40 cents, and it's been up, I think, as high as 9%. It says 24 hours, 6.74%. But we've got some movement, which I haven't really been, when the market's getting hit because of things that have nothing to do with the digital assets or companies that I own, but they still get hurt by it anyway. I just kind of, I've been through 5 or so of these whatever you call them, crypto win or whatever. I've been through several of them. And so I've learned that what I do in those things is 2 things. One, I don't stare at the coin market caps and all those sites as much when it's going on. But 2, I buy dips. I mean, I like this last week, I bought XRP. What I'm going to be doing is buying XRP and XLM. XRP on Uphold, who is one of my sponsors, and that link I'll put at the top of the description too. Bought some last week, but I'm also going to be adding money to my IRAs in iTrustCapital, who's also one of my sponsors, and I can buy XLM in that account. Okay, moving along. This is settlement stuff. This is Bill Morgan, who's an attorney. He says, okay, let's piece this together a few things. Ripple have the unredacted Hinman speech documents, but cannot publicly release them. I can understand why not, based on Australian law, implied undertaking, but needed to know if there was something similar in restricting public disclosure. And then he points out that this Fred Rispoli tweet, he says the confidentiality order applies essentially the same as the law you quoted. SEC designated emails confidential, and Ripple needs a court order to undo that designation. I expect them to be in the reply. Redacted will be part of the argument, and unredacted full briefs. And then he goes on. The sealing motions will not be fully briefed until the new year and decided part of the summary judgment process. The window for the SEC to avoid public revelation of unredacted or unsealed versions of the documents with Ripple has seen, subject to a few limited redactions, it is not the 30th of November. What about the documents themselves, or keeping them confidential as an incentive for the SEC to settle? Well, we know they were bad for the SEC. They fought their disclosure tooth and nail for 18 months. And you remember the Brad Garlinghouse and the Stuart Alderoty tweets where they're talking about how shameless, I think Brad Garlinghouse here said shamefulness, and then Stuart Alderoty made comments too. So he goes on. So both of their tweets indicate we will eventually see them. Or it was what I said at the time, it was them dangling out more or less like saying, yeah, these are going to be seen, SEC, unless you settle with us. Now, what he says in conclusion is what the point is. In conclusion, if avoiding public revelation of the shameful Hinman documents is as big a deal to the SEC as their bitter 18-month opposition to their disclosure suggests, and a true pressure point to settle, I would suggest to be safe they come to terms with Ripple. P.S. What would be totally invalidate the analysis is if the SEC is truly shameless. Now, look at what's going on with this FTX thing, folks. This is a real possibility. There's a real possibility that these guys are completely shameless. Think about Gary Gensler. This guy was involved. He was around for MF Global. I mean, you got to be pretty shameless to not do anything about it. You preside over that. Now you're presiding over FTX. You've been made to look like the complete jackass that you are in social media for almost 2 years because what you're doing is not right. And you have if anybody's got shamelessness, it's that guy. He walks to the microphone and he tells you, "Oh, I care about protecting investors." Meanwhile, he's got a lawsuit with over 75,000 XRP holders who he doesn't even acknowledge. Well, that points to potential shamelessness. These people, it's not just these people, but I feel like our country is now so corrupt that these people are at the point where they just ignore it all and just do what they want to do. Nobody's going to do anything to them. So that's a real possibility. But I've said all along, I don't think we see those emails, not because of Gary Gensler's shamelessness. I don't think we see those emails because of where they lead. I think they lead to a lot of people that don't want to be led to. So, okay. So I still say settlement. Now, Kathy Wood is a Bitcoin maximalist, but I did want to play you this part. I think that she is a smart lady. I think that she says some things that are really smart. I agree with this.
I'm assuming, Kathy, that you're going to hold to your Bitcoin forecast for, $1 million per coin by 2030. That still feels good to you?
Yes, and you can, sometimes you need to battle test. You need to go through crises to see who the real, to see the survivors, first of all, but really to battle test the infrastructure and the thesis. And again, we think Bitcoin is coming out of this smelling like a rose because of what I have mentioned previously. And I do think, though, the one thing that will be delayed is perhaps institutions stepping back and just saying, okay, do we really understand this? And once they actually do the homework and see.
All right, so I agree with her. Look, and John Deaton kind of says it here. This Doc Martin guy from Uphold told him, he said, the rest of the world doesn't care much about FTX because these things happen in nascent technological paradigm shifts. And that the future looks bright because good people are building. But here's what I said this morning, and this is so true. But the most exciting time in crypto is now. The companies and digital assets that emerge from this as winners will be monsters. I'm keeping my powder dry, waiting on one or two more shoes to drop. And this is one of the shoes I think is going to drop. I believe their final move. Look, I've said this for over 5 years. Ultimately, there's a reason that you and I as retail investors have never been able to go to Coinbase and be comfortable with the custody. I believe a long time ago, this was a very simple deal because they have custody, folks. These guys provide institutional custody. So you have to ask yourself the question, why do all of these crypto platforms offer retail or institutional custody. They figured out how to do it, but they don't offer it to retail. It's very simple. They've been waiting for Wall Street to open up so they can hand this industry. They want guys like me, which I will gladly do, because I'm tired, just like you are, of having the custody issue. We will gladly, and they know we'll gladly go to these traditional firms and store our crypto and get paid interest on it. But I think that Tether's the final. This Tether thing has never made any sense. Just like the FTX. Remember how I said before this FTX thing even imploded, it never made any sense to me, because this guy, I'd been in crypto since 2013, and I had never heard of this guy until I saw the Tom Brady commercial. I'd never heard of FTX, and it just comes out of nowhere. So anyway, this is what I think is going to happen. I think that a lot of these government people were behind the collapse of a lot of these things, like Luna and all these things. I'm not saying Luna specifically. I'm just saying all these collapses, I believe in one way or another, and we'll probably never find out. I believe they were behind these things going down so that they could raise their hands. Oh, we need regulation, see? I believe FTX is becoming pretty clear that they were somewhere in that. And then might save this one, and I want to go ahead and finish up. Well, actually, let me look. Andrew Ross Sorkin, he needs to make sure that he has the Sam Bankman-Fried, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank here. Scarlet Letter, not Scarlet. I think that's what it was. Anyway, Andrew Ross Sorkin is Sam Bankman-Fried. He's one of the guys that's propping this whole thing up, trying to paint this as something other than crime. So
what do you mean by that?
He gets it.
What I mean is that Bitcoin was invented precisely to prevent this kind of thing. You know, Bitcoin came into the world on the heels of the financial crisis, and the idea was that this was supposed to be decentralized, transparent, and reduce the need for too much trust in one individual or company. And now we've had basically the implosion of FTX, which had this kind of larger-than-life leader, a completely opaque institution. Now, of course, this does not represent Bitcoin per se. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, but the ideals on which cryptocurrency were founded have been completely just...
Folks, I'm telling you, this FTX thing, and you're seeing a lot of proof going around, this FTX thing was born of the same people that hate crypto. I think it was done by design. I think it was all done by design. I think what you're watching is all by design for them to be able to do what they're doing now. Oh, this is this crypto thing. And watch Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. They are going to show up to save the day, because you can trust us. You just can't trust these crypto startups. You can trust us. I think this is how they kept Wall Street alive for the next 200 years. I think that's what the game is here, folks. Look at this. We're getting a lot of concerning info from credible sources regarding the solvency of some of the largest players in the space. Almost impossible to 100% verify the information. Do we have a responsibility to share, or should we not? Well, in my opinion, you should share once you have proof. But until then, no. Then here's a Bitcoin maxi that's cheering for JP Morgan, and he's once again asking if XRP's value proposition is nothing. And John Deaton corrects him here. Look, these guys right here, for years, all of the XRP influencers were accused of being paid by Ripple. I was accused of it. I've never received a penny from Ripple. Okay. I've been talking about Ripple and XRP because I can't get it out of my head for the last 4 years, because it's the only one. The XRP is the thing that makes more sense than anything. It's faster. It's less expensive. It's scalable. It's everything that Bitcoin and all this proof of work garbage and all these garbage coins that we've been hearing about for years now, these pump and dump schemes and all this other stuff. The only things that have ever made sense, I mean, now it's a handful of them, but XRP and XLM were the first that made sense and still make sense. And that's why we've talked about it. That's why I've always been looking at why do they keep talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum proof of work? This stuff doesn't even work. The gas fees are ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. Never made any sense. But guys like this, see, you know, I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a strategy in politics, and there was a book written. I think it was Rules for Radicals, and the guy literally taught the people that what you do is you accuse your enemy of what you're doing. So I would turn this back on the Lark Davises of the world and say, has anybody ever paid you to try to scare people away from XRP? All these people, because they go out of their way. For years, they've gone out of their way to try to scare people away from XRP. That's what I would say. Are you being paid? Because I'll tell you point blank, Ripple's never paid me anything. Are you being paid? Well, this is great stuff. Wall Street Journal. Listen to this. When Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto empire went down in flames, so did his plans to save the world. They're trying to paint this guy as some kind of Robin Hood type character, folks. Look at Elon Musk. I'm loving Elon Musk's comments. He said, Wall Street Journal giving foot massages to a criminal. And then I thought, when I first saw this, I thought this was XRP, the Standard Productions. And I told him, I said, it looks like you got some competition. This is getting ridiculous. This is a parody right here. Look at this. Wall Street Journal, if I can get it to come up. Sam Bankman-Fried is super jacked and handsome. The FTX founder is super hot. He's amazing and we love him so much. And they've even put a muscular body on him. That made me laugh yesterday. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Sam Bankman-Fried does not have muscles and he's not super jacked. Thanks for listening.